At Clearwater Elementary, the arrival of a barefoot boy in worn jeans was the last thing anyone anticipated to shake up their routine. As 11-year-old Wyatt Miller stepped into school that morning, his lunch wrapped in newspaper, he could hear the hushed whispers of teachers, the laughter of students, and the principal's harsh words, declaring that those from less fortunate backgrounds had no place there. With a heavy heart, Wyatt silently withdrew, feeling utterly defeated. As dawn broke and sunlight pierced the clouds, an overwhelming roar reverberated through the heavens. A polished obsidian helicopter glided down onto the schoolyard. Doors swung wide. Security personnel emerged, fully equipped. What unfolded next left every educator, every tormentor, and even the principal in a state of stunned silence. Before we dive in, please give this video a thumbs up and share your location. In the comments, your support enables us to share more impactful narratives. Let us commence. The sun had just begun to peek over the golden fields of rural Kansas, as Wyatt Miller laced up his well-worn boots and quietly exited his family's weathered farmhouse. At merely 11 years of age, he bore the heavy burdens of droughts, debt, and disappointment upon his young shoulders. Once a proud farmer, his father now toiled at night, hauling grain merely to keep the lights on. That morning, he presented Wyatt with a battered tin lunchbox containing 2 slices of bread and a partially eaten apple from the day before. He rested, a calloused hand on his son's shoulder, and said, "Hold your head high, Wyatt. You have a place in every step you take." Wyatt gave a quiet nod. He had absorbed enough from his surroundings to hold a different belief. The 5-mile trek to Clearwater Elementary seemed to stretch on endlessly that day. He had washed his shirt in the sink the night before, yet it still carried a subtle scent of engine oil from the tractor. His jeans were frayed at the knees, and his backpack was a lovingly repaired feed sack, meticulously stitched by his grandma with care and devotion. As he approached the school gates, the shift in ambience struck him with an icy intensity. Gleaming SUVs adorned the parking lot. Children in stylish footwear giggled and conversed. All around, there was an air of entitlement, yet he stood apart. As Wyatt entered the hallway, all eyes were drawn to him. Soft murmurs trailed behind. Is he wandering off course? That child has an aroma reminiscent of a barn. Hold on, is that his backpack? He strolled with his gaze glued to the ground, feigning ignorance, acting as if the fire in his chest did not exist. He slipped into Mrs. Donohue's classroom with a hushed demeanor, taking a seat in the back row, wishing to blend into the shadows. Yet destiny had different intentions. Principal Gregory recognized, for his fixation on reputation and fundraising intervened. His suit was sleek, his words even more cutting. He glared at Wyatt as if he were a stain marring an immaculate surface. This institution, Gregory stated deliberately, ensuring that all ears were tuned in, is not intended for those seeking handouts. Quiet enveloped the scene. A couple of quiet chuckles emerged. Wyatt's hands shook as he rose, not from weakness, but because he had never felt so insignificant. Silently he exited, the sound of his footsteps resonating against the gleaming surface beneath him. He lingered on the school steps, isolated, filled with a sense of shame and defeat. Yet above, in the boundless expanse of the sky, an arrival was imminent. A cacophony of sound, an unstoppable force. The frigid, unyielding concrete steps dug into Wyatt's back as he slumped against the rough brick wall, gripping his lunchbox as if it were the sole remnant of a world that had turned its back on him. His eyes blazed with intensity, yet he held back the tears. Absent from this place. Not in their presence. The playground resonated with joyous laughter. The bell rang for recess, but the boy sitting outside went unnoticed, his jeans stained with dirt and his heart heavy with sorrow. He arrived at school with the intention of gaining knowledge, to attempt, to envision. Instead, he had been cast, aside for failing to fit the image. Within the confines of the office, Principal Gregory lingered, cradling a cup of coffee while perusing the donor reports. For him, appearance was paramount. Students represented potential connections, rather than mere children with narratives. He hadn't inquired about Wyatt's name. He was indifferent to the boy's origins. Unbeknownst to him, as he meticulously crafted his image, a formidable force was quietly approaching from the heavens. At precisely 11:14 a.m., a deafening roar shattered the tranquility. Educators and learners hurried to the panes. Some let out cries. Gasps filled the air. Above the schoolyard, a colossal black helicopter emerged, cutting through the sky with the precision of a fateful blade. It wasn't a helicopter for news coverage. It was not related to the military. It exuded a sleek, matte black finish, adorned with golden initials elegantly printed on the side. DM Industries. What unfolded at the school was truly unprecedented. It glided just above the soccer field, stirring up dust and leaves, causing papers to flutter wildly within the classrooms. The helicopter descended gracefully, and a man emerged, clad in a tailored navy blue suit, his polished boots striking the grass with the resonance of a war drum. His presence exuded a commanding aura. He tilted his sunglasses and surveyed his surroundings with an air of confidence, as if the very earth beneath his feet belonged to him. For that reason he did. Dawson Monroe was his name. Wealthy financier, creator of the most prominent technology firm in the nation. However, today he had no intention of attending a meeting. He had come for a person of great significance. "Where is Wyatt Miller?" he inquired, his tone steady yet authoritative. There was no response. All were momentarily paralyzed. Wyatt, remaining on the steps, lifted his gaze as the crowd dispersed. His lips parted just a fraction. He had encountered this man previously. Long ago, his father presented him with a photograph clipped from a vintage newspaper. Wyatt always remembered the name. "I will always remember the promise." And now that vow had arrived before the entire school, cloaked in a storm of anticipation. The audience remained motionless, not out of fear, but from sheer astonishment. The man who had just emerged from the helicopter resembled a figure straight out of a glossy magazine spread. He bore the burden of authority as if it were an innate part of him. In hushed tones, the educators exchanged glances, retrieving their phones with a sense of urgency. Several began to document. Silence enveloped the room, as if a hush had fallen over the gathering. Billionaire Dawson Monroe transcended mere identity. They had watched him on television delivering speeches alongside presidents, inaugurating monumental ventures worth billions, and now he found himself poised on the field of a quaint little school in town. Principal Gregory hurried down the steps, attempting to mask his true feelings with a forced smile. "Excuse me, I was not made aware of any visit." Dawson raised a hand, avoiding eye contact with him. "Where can I find Wyatt Miller?" he reiterated, surveying the expressions of those nearby. At last, a trembling voice murmured, "He's right there." Wyatt remained motionless at the summit of the school steps. The lunchbox remained firmly grasped in one hand. His garments were covered in dust. His shoes were worn. Yet his gaze was fixed on the figure in the field. Dawson smiled, not the type of smile found in press releases or gala dinners, but a genuine, profoundly personal one. He started to approach Wyatt, each step measured and intentional. The stillness was profound. The rhythmic clatter of his shoes on the concrete reverberated through the air. Principal Gregory interjected, his voice trembling with unease. "Apologies, but that young man was lingering around the school premises. He is out of place here. He is the offspring of a farmer. Our organization has established guidelines, a dress code, and specific enrollment criteria." Dawson met his gaze, head on. "Do you really believe that entitles you to demean a child?" Gregory felt a constriction in his throat. "I did not humiliate. You expelled the son of the man who preserved my family's land 3 decades ago. The individual who provided my father with initial funding during the time our harvests were unsuccessful. The individual who had faith in me before anyone else ever did. The existence of DM Industries can be traced back to this boy's father. You dismissed his son from this campus as if he were nothing of value." The air was thick with gas. The expressions of the teachers grew ashen. Students gazed at Wyatt, their eyes filled with wonder. The humble farm boy found himself linked to one of the most influential figures in the nation. Dawson softly rested a hand on Wyatt's shoulder. "Your father reached out to me last month, mentioning your desire to study here. He described you as intelligent, ambitious, and full of dreams. That sufficed for my needs. He faced the audience. Starting now, I will be establishing a scholarship in honor of Wyatt. This is not solely for him. It's for every student in this district who has ever been made to feel inferior because of their appearance or background. He turned his gaze squarely on Principal Gregory. Your assistance is no longer needed. In effect, right away. The stillness shattered into turmoil. Parents on the sidewalk erupted in cheers. Students buzzed with whispers and disbelief. Gregory remained motionless, taken aback, fully grasping the significance of the moment that had just unfolded. He parted his lips, yet silence enveloped him. In that moment, Wyatt's gaze met Dawson's. A lingering disbelief etched across his face. You recalled. Dawson remarked that he never forgot. A true gentleman always honors his word. For the first time that day, Wyatt smiled, a genuine expression that radiated from within, reflecting every bit of hope that had long been hidden in the depths of his soul. He had shed his cloak of invisibility. He was observed. This was merely the start. The bell chimed, yet still no one stirred. For a moment everyone was completely absorbed, oblivious to the next class, the ticking clock, and even their phones. All attention was focused on Wyatt, the boy who had once been invisible in the school and now stood next to a billionaire, the very same boy who was cast aside for his lack of wealth. The atmosphere hummed with an unusual blend of skepticism, remorse, respect, and an intrigue so palpable it felt as if it could be savored. Within the main office, the school superintendent entered, drawn by the commotion. As she crossed the threshold, she anticipated some theatrics, yet nothing could have prepared her for the spectacle of Dawson Monroe dismissing the principal and unveiling a district-wide scholarship fund dedicated to a farmer's son. Her jaw fell open in disbelief. In a matter of moments, she retrieved her phone and started dialing. Wyatt stood silently beside Dawson, his gaze sweeping over the crowd that had previously overlooked him. Some of the same kids who once mocked his worn shoes were now gazing at him as if he were a treasure. Yet Wyatt felt no anger. He was something immensely more formidable. He had opened his eyes to the world around him. Dawson leaned in, whispering. Something meant solely for Wyatt's ears. Wyatt's expression shifted. His eyebrows arched and his lips parted just a bit. He nodded slowly, his silence speaking volumes. Suddenly, the helicopter blades began to whirl once more. Dawson shifted his gaze toward Wyatt. Are you joining us? Wyatt cast a glance over his shoulder at the building, the hallways that had once echoed with overwhelming noise, the cafeteria where he often found himself in solitude, the principal's office where he had been told, "You don't belong here." He paused for a moment, then moved ahead. With unwavering resolve, he approached the helicopter. The students inhaled sharply. The educators remained in stunned silence. The very child they ridiculed, the one with dust on his jeans and holes in his backpack, was now stepping into a private helicopter alongside a man capable of purchasing the entire district with just one phone call. Wyatt secured his harness within the helicopter. The seats were plush leather. The aroma was deep, reminiscent of oak in a luxurious essence he couldn't quite identify. The pilot signaled approval with a thumbs up. As they ascended into the sky, the school diminished in size beneath them. Wyatt gazed out the window, his heart racing, not from fear, but from an unfamiliar excitement. Liberty, strength, an horizon that unexpectedly appeared boundless. Dawson retrieved a folder from his briefcase and passed it to him. Your enrollment is confirmed. Your enrollment at this school has come to an end. Wyatt's hands shook with anticipation as he unwrapped it. It was a prestigious full scholarship to Halberdin Academy, the foremost prep school in the state. Annual tuition is set at $80,000. Acceptance rate under 2%. But I don't belong there, Wyatt murmured. Dawson regarded him with a piercing gaze. Who informed you of that? Those individuals? Individuals who assessed you based on your footwear? Your journey begins here, and you are destined to follow your dreams wherever they lead. In the school, Principal Gregory meticulously sorted through his office, all while being observed by the superintendent. Whispers among students lingered about the billionaire and the young boy he stood up for. A news van arrived at the entrance. Journalists had already picked up on what transpired. The headlines ignited a frenzy across social media. A billionaire descends from the sky in a helicopter following the expulsion of a farmer's son from school. Principal was promptly dismissed. In just an hour, the video exploded in popularity. Countless eyes were glued to the screen as a young boy from humble beginnings stepped into a helicopter alongside one of the wealthiest individuals on the planet. Everywhere, conversations among parents were buzzing. Everywhere, schools were observing. Closely. What about Wyatt? He was finally embracing the life his father envisioned for him, a life unbound by those who could only perceive the superficial. This had transformed into something far beyond the tale of a struggling farm child. The narrative revolved around change and metamorphosis, and the world was only starting to pay attention. The helicopter ascended gracefully, the landscape beneath, diminishing in size, yet Wyatt's thoughts were in a whirlwind. Everything was unfolding at an overwhelming pace. In a matter of hours, his existence transformed from being overlooked due to his poverty to sharing space with one of the nation's most powerful figures. Dawson Monroe, a billionaire businessman and philanthropist, had transcended the ordinary in his current existence. He had transformed into his essential support. For the first time, Wyatt experienced the daunting burden of opportunity and responsibility converging upon him. "Wyatt," Dawson began, shattering the stillness, "I understand this is a lot to take in. Transforming from the overlooked child to a figure that others aspire to be associated with is a rare journey. Yet you hold the power to redefine your narrative. You must take action yourself." Wyatt nodded thoughtfully, taking in Dawson's words. His thoughts lingered at the school, filled with the faces of the teachers, the murmurs of the students, and the condescending smirk of Principal Gregory. He was merely a punchline to them, a struggling youth destined to remain an outsider. Yet here he stood, embraced by an air of grandeur with the universe unfolding before him. It was an experience beyond reality. He found it impossible to refute, however. A fragment of his being found pleasure in it. Dawson observed the struggle within, a silent war unfolding before him. He had observed it in other children who received everything all at once. They faced challenges with it. Wyatt, on the other hand, appeared to be the kind of person who wouldn't allow it to take over his life. Upon reaching Dawson's estate, they were greeted by an impressive mansion that sprawled over vast acres of land. It transcended the notion of a mere dwelling. It represented dominance, affluence, and achievement. As they touched down, Wyatt absorbed the scene, his heart racing with astonishment. Dawson's private security team welcomed them, and a young woman in a sharp black suit approached, presenting Wyatt with a phone. "I arranged a call with your father," she stated, her tone polished and purposeful. "He awaits your presence in the study." Wyatt grasped the phone, his hands trembling with uncertainty. The truth of the situation began to dawn on me. "Hey, Dad, it's Wyatt here." A moment of silence hung in the air before his father's voice broke through the static on the line. "Son, is everything all right? We caught wind of the latest headlines. What's happening?" Wyatt reached a breaking point. "Dad, I won't be coming home." Not for some time. A silence lingered, extending beyond comfort, until at last his father broke the stillness once more. "Could you clarify what you mean? Where might you be?" "I'm with Dawson Monroe," Wyatt murmured softly. "I am attending Halberton Academy. I am moving on from my previous existence." His father exhaled slowly. Wyatt sensed the heaviness of it through the phone. "My dear child, your dedication and effort have truly been remarkable. This is something I never imagined would occur." "I didn't think so either," Wyatt replied, his voice strained with feeling. "But it's happening. I have always held a deep sense of pride for you, my son. This symbol of inquiry. This is a reward you truly deserve. I look forward to the moment when I can personally extend my hand to that man. A future awaits you now. Remember your true self, all right?" Wyatt made a vow not to. He brushed away the tears, unaware that they had begun to fall. "I will make you proud, Dad." The call concluded, and Wyatt placed the phone on the table, his gaze fixed on the screen. A burden lingered, a tightness in his chest that he couldn't seem to dispel. It felt like a transformation had occurred, but in reality, everything remained the same. He remained the same boy who adored his father, still the same individual with the same aspirations, yet now those aspirations had grown larger than they had ever been. Dawson entered the room, his presence both authoritative and soothing. "Are you all right?" Wyatt glanced upward, clearing his face of sweat. "Indeed, everything has changed. Such is life, my friend." Dawson placed a hand on Wyatt's shoulder and said, "You either take charge of the change, or you allow it to take charge of you. Which path will you choose?" Wyatt locked eyes with him, his heart pounding, a fresh resolve igniting within him. "I will make a change." The following days unfolded in a whirlwind of fresh starts, a luxurious suite at Halberton Academy, personal instructors, and boundless possibilities. For Wyatt, the most significant transformation wasn't in his surroundings. It was within him. He possessed a flame now, and it refused to extinguish. In the meantime, at his former school, the murmurs continued unabated. The videos spread like wildfire among students, and with every view, the disbelief deepened further. The once impoverished farm boy had risen above his circumstances, leaving the very system that had dismissed him, questioning its own judgment. Wyatt's journey transcended his personal evolution. It illustrated a broader awakening, revealing that anyone, no matter their beginnings, could rise to become the next remarkable force. The outcome was beyond anyone's foresight, yet one truth remained. Their perception of the world would be forever altered. Wyatt wouldn't either.